Hello, and welcome to the Business of Data podcast, brought to you by Corinium Global Intelligence. In this podcast, we talk to senior executives, thought leaders, and experts from a range of industries and departments within large and small organizations across the globe. They share stories and experiences that shape their passion for data and analytics and form the future of our industry.
Welcome to the Business of Data podcast. In today's episode, we're diving into what it takes to connect businesses to the benefit of data and AI transformation and achieve AI readiness across the enterprise. I'm excited to have our guests with us today. I think they might be two of the best people to discuss this topic with. First, we have Joseph George, CEO of Dufrain. Dufrain is a prominent UK data consultancy known for its cutting-edge data management and analytics services. Welcome to the podcast, Joseph. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Gareth. Doing well. And I'm looking forward to this conversation with you and discussing all things data.
That's great. I was hoping you might like to tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what it is about data and analytics and AI that makes it such an exciting field to work in today.
Yeah, I'm sure like most people stumbled into this by, I would say, conscious accident. My background's all in being in tech and engineering and consulting, my working career, and Dufrain and the data world and AI world felt like a natural extension to my background. I can tell you more about it as we go along.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And our second guest is Catherine Masters. She's Director of Pricing and Data at Covéa Insurance. Covéa Insurance is the UK subsidiary of Covéa Group, a European leader in insurance and reinsurance. Covéa Insurance offers a wide range of home, motor, and commercial insurance backed by great service. Catherine brings a business-led perspective to discussion today, which I think is so important. It's something we hear about all the time at our conferences, in my conversations with data and analytics leaders, how to get at that value and bring data and the business side together. Welcome to the podcast, Catherine. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you think it's such an important issue in business today?
Thanks, Gareth, and it's excellent to be here as well. I love talking about data and analytics and AI, so this is a perfect opportunity, and I know we're going to have a good conversation as well. My background is very insurance focused. I've been in the insurance industry for nearly 15 years, done a variety of different roles, mainly analytically focused around pricing and data, which means that the role I do at the minute, where I get to lead those two functions on behalf of Covéa Insurance, is very fulfilling, and I think I've got some good examples to share with the listeners today about how we're succeeding in what can be quite a complex but also exciting world.
Thank you so much. Yes, there's a lot to get into. So I'll come to you, Catherine, to begin with. When we talk about data and AI readiness, it often involves multiple layers of an organization. So from a business perspective, what are the foundational elements for a company to start a data and AI journey effectively? And how do you turn an idea into a reality?
Yeah, and there's no straightforward way to do this. There's lots of ways that you could approach it, but I think about it in three phases. Firstly, there needs to be a desire for change. And fortunately, if you're like me and you work with analysts and people who use data or want to get answers from data on a regular basis, you'll know that they're not shy about being vocal about what they need and what they want. So a desire for change and identifying that opportunity usually forms the first phase. And ideally, you might get some good insight from those people as well. What's working, what needs changing, and that can begin the foundation of your approach. Secondly, there needs to be a case for investment. So if you've defined your vision, you know what it is that you want to achieve, getting the funding for that can be another hurdle to get over. And certainly the success that I've seen work well in the past is to structure a program in a phased delivery, where you get quick wins early and begin to kind of feed that case for investment with a more natural momentum. I think gone are the days where executive committees will sign off huge digital and data transformations without having a certainty of return on investment, and having a phased delivery can certainly help with that. And then lastly, I think empowering your people can really help you turn that idea into reality. And one of the ways that we've approached that at Covéa is to lead our data and AI transformation out of the business. And that means you've got some really fantastic people who know what they're doing, both from the business and technology, aligned around a vision, who can, with support, lead that change, which ultimately can improve adoption and the value that you're able to generate from there.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating. And so when you're looking at that kind of phased delivery, what are the benefits of providing those quick wins early in the process from a business point of view?
It's just the tangible nature of them. So you can actually have a really big impact in a very short amount of time. And there's different accelerators to utilize to do that. And it becomes a much easier journey when you're showing that continuous delivery. And I think that's also the kind of expectation now when companies are going through changes like this. We're not patient enough to wait until the big pot of gold at the end. We need to be showing delivery and value throughout that journey.
That's great, thank you. And Joseph, what do you think? Thinking about these foundational elements, the beginning of the journey, from your experience working with clients and in the data industry, what do you think are some of the most foundational elements there?
Yeah, I believe, and we as business Dufrain believe that everybody can do better in their job, no matter what it is, if they had access to the right information at the right time in an efficient manner, no matter what function or operation you sit in and what industry you sit in. But yet most struggle with that. I think that's the core essence or the lowest common denominator of what I think a foundation needs to achieve. So if you look at what you do with data, there is the what happened, using data to see what happened. There's the data to understand what is happening, what data we've got, and then to look at what will happen, which is your more advanced AI piece. And most organizations from an enterprise level or an organizational level in terms of maturity is still grappling with the what has happened in the past, the historic bits, and what is happening right now with the data we've got, and trying to make sure that they can get access to that information in the most efficient way, and it's the right information. There are pockets of experiments of what will happen in the future, and there are definitely some successful use cases across various industries for that. But I think as a whole, the industry and the world is still grappling with that, the foundational elements of the basics. So that's how I would see that maturity curve of data.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned having access to your data there, and I really think that data governance, data quality, that really play crucial roles in data and AI transformations. At Dufrain, how do you approach these aspects? How do you advise your clients about them? And do you have any best practices that you can share with our listeners in regard to those?
Yeah, so as Catherine has mentioned, tangible benefits and phase programs and showing business value quickly. This is one of the very difficult areas to show a business value when you talk about data governance, because it's not something that lets everyone get out of bed in the morning and excited to talk about data governance, and it's very difficult to show a tangible business value. So I think most organizations and the various sectors go through cycles of the prominence of this. There's a link to regulation. Regulation demands it in many cases, like in financial services. But in other cases, something has to go wrong, which could be an internal audit related activity or an external auditors pointing out to someone, where these things typically have in the past taken a lot of notice. Now that's all completely changed and disrupted in the last 18 months with AI and Gen AI and everything going on and the art of the possibility with that, because everyone's now realized that without proper controls, proper governance, and good data, you can't make the most of AI. So therefore, these areas, which are typically overlooked, or used to be overlooked in most organizations, are getting a tremendous prominence and investment. In terms of approach, there isn't. I wouldn't say there is a one size fits all approach. Everyone looks at it in a different way. They look at what benefits they try to get out of it with different horizon lenses. But if I was to summarize some of the best practice we've seen and how we work with many organizations, is there is a top down and a bottom up approach to this. When I talk about top down, is it, do you have a policy? What are your business objectives? What's the business strategy? Is the business and the leadership and the exec bought into why you're doing it? What's your risk appetite? What are the most important success factors and success factors in the short to medium term for you as a business, which then drives which data items are most relevant for you to make sure you're governed and you've got good quality checks, etc. So that's the top down. Bottom up is the ground realities of what goes on operationally across the organization. Can you actually trace how data flows through the organization, between departments, between silos, and making sure you've got controls around it and being able to manage it and expose it through, in the case of data quality dashboard. So I think the mix of the top down and the bottom up is important. It's not, you can't just do one, you have to do both. And then overarching all of this, there's the approach around how you govern all of this. And this again goes into, do you have the right policies? Do you have the right roles and responsibilities? Data owners, data stewards, education and training, fundamental. Catherine mentioned empowering everybody to do what's needed. I think there needs to be the cushions and the guardrails of making sure everyone understands what good looks like and the benefits of it. And then the governance and the committees to make sure all this is looked after. So what I've just explained is your typical well-governed organization that's treating data quality management and data governance properly. Another side of it, when you look at it from a tech angle, because sometimes, or historically, organizations have sometimes treated this as a technology problem. And there's a lot of off-the-shelf products and tools that companies can invest in. And our point of view on it is it works for some organizations, but with the extent of AI adoption, but also organizations going through their cloud adoption journey, you need data quality, your data quality capability to work alongside the ingestion of huge workloads of data, which organizations are now using or trying to bring together in order to do some clever use cases with AI. What you tend to see is a lot of the off-the-shelf packages the organizations have invested in. They have great user interface, but they are not necessarily built for processing power or flexibility. And as you can see, the market in the world is moving very quickly, and organizations have to pivot and change strategy, tact, to react to a lot of changes in the market quite quickly. And some of these off-the-shelf products and tools are bloated, and it makes it incapable of doing so. So you see a lot of organizations going native and trying to build their own thing, or use tools and scripts that make it easier rather than this big giant technology-led transformation programs. I think you see the shift into more business-led transformation programs, and which is why Catherine's team has been usually successful at Covéa as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joseph raised something there about the kind of the design and the implementation of data and AI platforms, and how that actually impacts the people using them day to day. And the ability to make sure that they actually meet the needs of the end users. How have you found that, Catherine, particularly in the insurance sector?
Yeah, thanks, Gareth. And I think this is something that often gets overlooked. And it's worth remembering that, according to some of the top consultancy firms, between 75 and 90% of digital and data transformations fail. And one of the reasons that is a driver of that is a lack of alignment on those business outcomes. From my perspective, I actually think it's quite a simple answer, which is to set up your program and your maintenance of that program to ensure that your end users are involved in each step of the way. And I think there's always a bit of a temptation to let your end users give you your business requirements and then let them go about their merry way, and with the promise to check in with them when you deliver them this fantastic fancy things. But there's a real risk there of a translation failure between the needs of the end user and those engineers who have their hands on the keyboard. Unless you've got a really bulletproof requirements and refinement process, it's always good to help mitigate that by having your end users involved at each step of the way. And I think creating that culture and strong set of collaborative involvement with your end users can really help shore up your delivery and ensure that the asks that you've leveraged on the program are the ones that you're actually getting. In the insurance sector, this is particularly important. And if I just talk for a moment about the UK motor market, which is one of the most competitive financial markets in the world, good data in the right structures in the hands of your end users is an absolute must-have. You can't be successful without it. And in addition to that, as a regulated sector, we also have a responsibility to demonstrate and evidence that the data and AI products and outcomes that we're reaching are explainable and that they lead to good customer outcomes. And this really requires the implementation of good governance frameworks, security and privacy by design. So there's lots of benefits, I think, to structuring your program or your transformation in a way that involves end users at each step of the way. And I really believe that gives you a higher chance of being in that 10 to 25% of transformations that succeed. I just don't see a downside for it.
Yes, it's a terrifying statistic, that one, isn't it? You feel like you're facing an impossible task. But I thought that was really fascinating about bringing people into the process. I was wondering how you went about doing that. Do you choose individuals to kind of work with you on the way, or do you have panels of colleagues who you bring in? How did you kind of approach doing that?
Yeah, so clear roles and responsibilities, which Joseph mentioned a little bit earlier, is one of the key aspects that have helped us be successful. And we're very clear internally on who owns the what we're doing and who owns the how. And to be able to leverage those two things together, you've got your experts, your technology people who are responsible for the solution design and how we do something. But you've got your business and your end users who are setting the what. Those two things are equal to each other. There's not a kind of fight for superiority there, but they do need to have equal weight. So being really clear who is the what and who is the how is the first step, and then underneath that, we've been engaging at each step of the project with the wider stakeholder group, so that we avoid that situation that I said, where at the end of the program you put into the hands of the people who have asked for something you think is fantastic and delivers everything with a bow on top, but actually just doesn't